Welcome, curious minds, to the deep dive.
Great to be here.
Today, we're embarking on an exploration into a topic that is, it's both profoundly personal and, universally debated.
Absolutely.
We're calling it two sides of the coin: abortion rights, life, and complex choices. Our mission today really is to give you, our listener, a kind of well-informed shortcut. We want to pull out the most important insights, maybe some surprising facts from the sheer stack of perspectives that define this discussion.
Yeah, it's a lot to wade through.
It really is. And we aim to delve into the differing moral, ethical, legal, and frankly, intensely personal viewpoints. Not to promote division, that's key.
No, definitely not.
But hopefully to foster some understanding, maybe some dialogue by exploring those fundamental claims, the human narratives behind them, and what each side hopes for in the future.
Yeah, looking at all angles.
Exactly. Think of this as your guide, maybe, to navigating a conversation that often feels, intractable.
It really does. And what's fascinating here, I think, is that the discussion around abortion perfectly captures that two sides of the coin idea we're using.
Right.
Just like a coin has two distinct faces, but they're part of the same whole, inseparable. This debate involves fundamentally different perspectives, often seen as completely opposing.
Completely.
Yet both sides, really often, stem from deeply held values. Sometimes very compassionate values about life, or individual rights, or community well-being.
It's not always just antagonism.
No, not at its root, perhaps. So understanding these distinct sides, not just what they argue, but why they argue it, that's absolutely crucial to comprehending the entire coin, the whole debate.
Okay.
Our aim here is really just to lay out these foundational viewpoints.
Yeah.
So you can hopefully gain a clearer, maybe more nuanced understanding of this very intricate landscape.
So, okay, let's unpack this then. We're starting right at the beginning with the foundational arguments, the very definitions that shape each side of this complex issue.
Exactly. The bedrock.
Yeah, think of these as the bedrock principles, like you said, the source from which all the other arguments kind of spring, whether they're about laws or personal choices or what society should aim for. It's really where the fundamental philosophical questions, even the biological ones, truly diverge, isn't it?
It is precisely where they diverge.
Yeah.
And grasping these fundamentals is absolutely key to understanding everything that follows, the personal impact stories, the future goals.
Right.
Because without getting these core definitions clear, conversations can just go completely off the rails, talking past each other.
Okay, so let's begin with the perspective often termed pro-choice, or maybe more accurately, advocating for reproductive rights. The primary focus here, it seems undeniably, is on the individual's bodily autonomy. That fundamental right to make decisions about one's own body, one's health, one's future.
Yes.
And this isn't just like a dry legal concept, is it?
Yeah.
It's seen as much more foundational, a cornerstone of personal sovereignty, individual liberty.
Absolutely. If we connect this to the bigger picture, this perspective sees reproductive freedom as, essential. Essential for equality, essential for self-determination.
How so? Exactly.
Well, think about it. The ability to control one's reproductive life is seen as foundational to controlling your entire life trajectory. You mentioned Griswold v. Connecticut before we started.
Right, the contraception case.
Exactly. Even though it was about contraception, it laid groundwork for this right to privacy and procreation decisions, which definitely influenced later thinking on abortion rights.
Okay.
So without this autonomy, other freedoms can feel significantly constrained, particularly for women or anyone who can become pregnant. Think about education, career goals, managing existing family duties.
Yeah.
An unplanned pregnancy can drastically alter all of that. It can even derail things completely. So this perspective argues that individuals must have the agency to decide if and when to have children so they can actually pursue those other goals without being sort of unduly limited.
It's about control over life's path.
It really is. It's about the very essence of individual liberty and having control over your own life.
And privacy plays a huge role here too, doesn't it? This idea that these are deeply personal decisions.
Critical, absolutely critical.
Made within the sanctity of one's own life, free from, government intrusion or societal judgment, that right to be let alone.
Precisely. The right to privacy is paramount. It extends to medical decisions, intimate personal choices. And beyond just the legal side, this perspective often highlights the profound socioeconomic impacts.
Right, the practical consequences.
Exactly. The impacts of pregnancy and childbirth on individuals and families. The burdens, both financial and emotional, of raising a child can be immense.
And often fall disproportionately.
Very often. And various studies show that unexpected childbirth can significantly hit a person's income, often for years. It can worsen existing economic insecurity, especially for low-income individuals or those without strong support systems.
So the right to choose becomes a factor in economic stability, too.
A crucial one from this viewpoint. It allows individuals to make decisions that align with their current life situation, their capabilities, their hopes for themselves, and maybe their existing families. Which really raises an important question, doesn't it? How do things like societal structures or just personal circumstances influence how someone can actually exercise this fundamental right?
Yeah, it's not abstract.
Not at all. It has very real, tangible effects on people's lives and their ability to, well, thrive.
Okay, so given this focus on individual autonomy, the
Yep.
existing person, how does this perspective approach that really pivotal question? When does life begin? Because that seems to be where the paths really fork.
It is a major point of divergence. So for this viewpoint, the definition of when life begins and therefore when rights might apply to a developing fetus, it's generally viewed through a lens that prioritizes the pregnant person's autonomy and well-being.
Okay.
Now, this doesn't necessarily mean ignoring the developing life, but it centers the rights of the existing person, the individual who already has established legal rights, human rights, a life, responsibilities.
The person who is already here.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Exactly. The legal and moral status of a fetus is often seen as something that develops over time. Historically, legal frameworks like the one Roe v. Wade set up in the U.S. before it was overturned.
The trimester framework.
Right. It used that trimester framework,
Right.
which kind of recognized a developing state, often linking more legal protection to later stages, especially after viability.
Viability being when the fetus could survive outside the womb.
Generally, yes. Typically around 24 weeks, though medical advances keep pushing that boundary a bit. But before viability, the pregnant person's rights generally took precedence under that framework.
Mm-hmm.
This perspective might also point to older concepts like quickening, the first time a pregnant person feels movement, which historically marked a point where the developing life was perceived differently. But fundamentally, for this viewpoint, full personhood, the kind that carries full rights, is typically associated with things like consciousness, self-awareness, independent existence, or at least viability, rather than just the presence of unique DNA at conception.
Okay, that clarifies the emphasis on the pregnant person's rights.
Yes, it prioritizes the existing individual's life and autonomy.
Now let's shift gears. Let's focus on the second perspective, the one often termed pro-life or advocating for the right to life.
Okay.
Here, the focus shifts pretty dramatically, doesn't it? It moves to the moral status and the inherent right to life of the unborn.
It does. It's a fundamental shift in focus.
Grounding its arguments often in biological claims, ethical claims about when human life actually begins.
Yes. What's profoundly central here is this deep moral conviction tied to the very earliest stages of human development.
Conception itself.
Conception. This perspective, and you see it across various philosophical and religious traditions, consistently dates the beginning of human life, and therefore the right to life, from the moment of conception. They emphasize the sanctity of all human life, asserting that a fertilized egg, an embryo, a fetus, that it is a human life with an inherent right to exist, regardless of its state of development, its level of dependency, or even where it's located, inside the womb.
And society's role, then.
From this viewpoint, society's fundamental role is seen as protecting this vulnerable life, much like it would protect any other defenseless human being. And this belief is often rooted in the understanding that, at conception, a unique human organism is created. It has its own distinct genetic code, the full blueprint for human development.
Could you maybe elaborate a bit more on why life is defined as beginning precisely at conception in this view? What are the core reasons behind pinpointing that specific moment beyond just the genetics?
Sure. The rationale is deeply rooted in both a biological and a philosophical understanding. It views the zygote, that single cell formed at conception, as a distinct new human organism. Not just a potential life, but a life already begun.
A life with potential.
A life already in existence with potential, from their perspective. The argument is that all the necessary components for a human life are present right from that very first moment. Subsequent development, embryo, fetus, infant, is seen as just a process. Growth, maturation, differentiation, but not a transformation into something fundamentally different or more human.
It's a continuum.
Exactly. They'd point to this unbroken continuum of development from that point onward. And things like, say, twinning, where one zygote splits into two.
Right.
That doesn't negate the humanity of the initial organism in their view. It just means two distinct individuals developed from that initial unique blueprint. Therefore, any intervention that terminates this developing organism is seen as ending a human life.
Which leads to the moral conclusion.
Which leads to the strong conviction that abortion is the termination of a human life and therefore morally impermissible. Often regardless of the circumstances, though, there can be some internal debate on extreme cases.
Wow.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, it really is about a universal protective stance. A stance towards what is seen as innocent, defenseless life, asserting that its value and right to exist are intrinsic, right from inception, independent of anything else. This perspective often leans on what philosophers call a deontological ethical framework, where the right to life is seen as an absolute moral duty, regardless of the potential consequences of upholding it.
Okay, so we've laid out those core claims, those foundational definitions. Now, this is where it gets, I think, really impactful. We move into the incredibly human, the deeply personal narratives, and also the broader societal values that really animate this whole debate.
Yes, the lived experiences.
These stories, they help us understand the why behind the positions, right? Moving beyond abstract principles to the actual realities and consequences people face.
Indeed. And these narratives offer just vital insights into the profound emotional, ethical, and practical dimensions of this whole issue. They really illustrate how these deeply held beliefs translate into personal experiences, and how those experiences ripple outward, affecting society. It gives a face, really, to the arguments we've just been discussing.
So let's delve into the personal narratives first, from the reproductive rights perspective.
Yeah.
We're talking about individuals facing unintended pregnancies. And, I mean, it's crucial to acknowledge the sheer diversity, the immense complexity of the circumstances involved. These aren't simple choices, are they?
Oh, not at all. Simple is the last word you'd use. These narratives almost universally underscore the profound emotional complexity and the personal conviction often involved in making such choices.
What kinds of situations come up?
Well, for many, an unintended pregnancy can arise from just a multitude of incredibly difficult situations. You hear about severe economic hardship, unstable or even abusive relationships, domestic violence.
Health complications, too, sometimes.
Absolutely. Significant health complications for the pregnant person.
Yeah.
Or sometimes devastating diagnoses for the developing fetus, or simply someone might feel they aren't ready or able to parent due to age, lack of support, other major life circumstances already ongoing. The decision to have an abortion from these accounts, it's often made after really careful, sometimes agonizing consideration, and it's frequently accompanied by profound sadness or grief or just a powerful sense of necessity. It's rarely portrayed as casual.
And the importance of access comes through strongly here.
The paramount importance of access to safe and legal abortion for an individual's health, their overall well-being, their life planning, it cannot be overstated in these accounts.
What happens when access is restricted?
Well, when abortion access is restricted, or if it becomes unsafe or illegal, historical data, global comparisons, they show a dramatic increase in risks to health.
Serious risk.
Very serious. It can lead to severe complications, injury, even death from unsafe procedures. I mean, studies from countries where abortion was previously illegal, they demonstrate a pretty clear correlation with higher rates of maternal mortality and morbidity, which really raises that important question again. What are the tangible, often devastating consequences for individuals, for communities, when this access is compromised, especially for already vulnerable populations?
Right. And beyond the individual health impact, how do restrictions on abortion access ripple out? How do they affect broader societal structures, different groups? What are those wider implications?
Yeah, that's a key part of this perspective's narrative, too. What's fascinating, in a sobering way, is how restrictions on individual choice can indeed ripple outward. They affect entire communities, demographic groups, and often worsen existing inequalities.
Like what?
Well, when access is limited, you see significant potential impacts on public health. We mentioned increased maternal mortality and morbidity rates. Those often hit marginalized communities hardest.
Like women of color or people in rural areas.
Exactly, those who already face systemic barriers to getting health care in the first place. Furthermore, it can deepen the cycles of poverty. There's research, like the Turnaway study, which looked at the long-term effects on women denied abortions they sought. It illuminated how that denial often leads to a significant increase in financial distress for the individuals themselves and for their existing children, potentially reinforcing poverty traps.
And gender inequality.
That too. It can deepen gender inequality because the primary burden of unintended pregnancies and then childcare still disproportionately falls on women, which impacts their education, their workforce participation, their overall role in society. So, narratives from this perspective often highlight how legal, accessible abortion is seen as a crucial component of gender equality and social justice.
Enabling people to participate fully.
Exactly. Enabling individuals to achieve their full potential and participate equitably in society. It's about ensuring everyone has an equal shot, really, in life.
Okay, now let's shift perspective again. Let's turn to the right-to-life viewpoint and its narratives. These often center on the unborn child's potential life, right? And the alternative paths championed by this perspective.
Yes, the focus shifts significantly here.
These stories often emphasize compassion, it seems, for both the pregnant person and the child.
That's often the framing. This perspective frequently emphasizes the belief in adoption as a viable, compassionate alternative to abortion. An alternative that, in their view, respects the inherent right to life of the unborn.
Celebrating potential.
Exactly. The narratives here often celebrate the potential life of the unborn child, imagining the joy, the fulfillment it could bring to an adoptive family. It's a powerful focus on what they term life-affirming choices.
Driven by conviction.
Driven by the conviction that every child deserves a chance to live and thrive, and also the belief that there are loving families out there eager to provide homes. Many in this movement highlight personal stories of successful adoptions, showcasing the deep bonds formed, the positive outcomes for adopted children and their adoptive parents.
So adoption is presented as a key alternative path.
A key path. If we connect this to the bigger picture, this position really champions an alternative path that is seen as preserving life while also, ideally, providing a loving and stable home. The narrative often emphasizes adoption as a testament to compassion, responsibility, and the willingness of individuals to open their hearts and homes.
So digging into that a bit more, what are the core emotional and ethical considerations from this perspective? Particularly when it comes to protecting what they see as vulnerable life and also offering support.
Well, from this viewpoint, the emotional and ethical considerations are deeply rooted in that core belief. The unborn child is a human being with the right to life.
And
therefore, society has a profound moral obligation to protect it. Narratives from this perspective often express profound grief or moral objection to abortion, seeing it unequivocally as the loss of a unique human life. You also find many personal accounts within this viewpoint from individuals who regret past abortions, perhaps feeling they weren't adequately supported or informed about alternatives at the time. Or people who now advocate passionately for the value of every single life.
And the emphasis on societal value.
Yes, there's a strong emphasis on the societal value placed on all human life, particularly the most defenseless. And this perspective heavily highlights the availability or the desired availability of support systems for parenting and adoption.
Like crisis pregnancy centers.
Exactly. This includes a vast network of crisis pregnancy centers, which are designed to provide pregnant individuals with things like free counseling, material aid diapers, clothing, formula and referrals for housing, medical care, adoption services.
The goal being?
The goal is to try and alleviate the circumstances that might lead someone to consider abortion in the first place, providing a pathway to choosing life as they see it. Which, again, raises an important question, but from this side. How does a society best demonstrate its value for all life, right from conception onward, through truly supportive actions and comprehensive resources, ensuring that no one feels coerced, perhaps, into a decision they don't really want to make?
Right. So we've looked at the foundations, the personal impacts, the narratives. What does this all mean for the future, then? Where do these perspectives want to go? We've explored the deeply held beliefs, but what do each of these perspectives hope to actually achieve moving forward? What kind of society do they ultimately envision regarding these issues?
Yeah, this is crucial because it outlines the aspirational goals. And these often go beyond just the immediate issue of abortion itself, touching on much broader societal visions.
They have different ideas of a flourishing society.
Very different ideas, often, about what a just and flourishing society looks like when it comes to reproduction, family, and support.
Okay, let's start with the reproductive rights perspective's aspirations. What are they working towards for the future? And what does comprehensive health care really mean to them in practice?
Well, the core aspiration here really is for universal access to comprehensive reproductive health care. And that's a broad vision extending far beyond just abortion access.
So what does comprehensive include?
It's generally understood as broad and proactive, so it definitely includes accessible, affordable contraception for everyone you know, everything from birth control pills to long-acting methods like IUDs, with the goal of significantly reducing unintended pregnancies in the first place.
Prevention is key.
Prevention is a huge part of it. It also involves robust, evidence-based sex education, the kind that provides accurate information about reproductive health, consent, safe practices, ideally starting at an appropriate age.
And abortion services.
And yes, it includes safe, legal, and accessible abortion services, ensuring that if a pregnancy is unintended, individuals have a choice and can access that care without facing undue burdens, financial barriers, or stigma.
So the goal is informed choice, essentially.
Exactly. The ultimate goal is ensuring all decisions about reproduction are made safely, legally, and crucially, that individuals are informed and empowered to make these choices based on their own circumstances, their own desires, free from external coercion or insurmountable barriers. And what's really proactive here, as you said, is that vision of reducing the need for abortion through education and comprehensive access to contraception, rather than focusing solely on the procedure itself.
Right. The idea being if people have the tools and knowledge.
Exactly. If individuals have the knowledge and tools to prevent pregnancy effectively, the thinking goes, the need or demand for abortion might naturally decrease over time.
And what about policies beyond direct health care? Things that support individuals and families. How does that fit in?
That's a really important part of this perspective's aspiration, too. There's a strong desire for policies that actively support individuals and families, which, again, aims to reduce unintended pregnancies, but also eliminate disparities in healthcare access overall.
What kind of policies?
This could include advocating for things like paid family leave, affordable, high-quality childcare options, comprehensive healthcare coverage that includes mental health and good prenatal care, robust social safety nets.
So creating a supportive environment.
Precisely. The aspiration is for a society where factors like your socioeconomic status, your race, where you happen to live geographically, none of that dictates your ability to access care or make informed reproductive decisions. This is often framed under the umbrella of reproductive justice.
Which is broader than just abortion rights.
Much broader. It's a concept that recognizes that the ability to make reproductive choices is deeply intertwined with broader social and economic justice issues. So if we connect that to the bigger picture, the ultimate aim for this perspective is a society where every individual can fully exercise control over their reproductive life, empowering them to make choices aligned with their personal circumstances, their aspirations. It really comes down to self-determination being fundamental to human flourishing.
Okay. Ensuring agency.
Agency, yes. Ensuring individuals have the agency to shape their lives, their futures, without undue burdens or restrictions specifically on their reproductive autonomy.
Now, let's transition to the aspirations of the right to life perspective for the future. What's their vision for society moving forward? How do they see legal protections evolving, for instance?
Okay. Their core aspiration, fundamentally, is for legal protection for unborn life. This is often articulated quite clearly as the goal of ending abortion legally.
Making it illegal.
Yes. Which often translates into advocating for laws that restrict or ban abortion procedures. The ultimate goal for many in this movement is establishing legal personhood for the unborn, right from conception.
And how has that played out recently?
Well, since the overturning of Roe v. Wade in the U.S. by the Dobbs decision in 2022, this aspiration has largely shifted to state-level efforts, aiming to enact total bans or very significant restrictions within individual states, which of course raises its own important question. How can legal frameworks best reflect a commitment to the sanctity of life from conception, especially across diverse state and potentially national contexts?
Beyond the legal strategy, what else?
Beyond direct legal measures, this perspective also very actively promotes alternatives to abortion, primarily adoption.
We touched on that in the narratives.
Right. They work tirelessly to raise awareness about adoption as a loving choice, advocating for policies that might make adoption more accessible, maybe less financially burdensome, and more socially supported for both the birth parents and the adoptive families.
And it seems to go beyond just legal protection or adoption promotion, right?
Well,
There's often a strong emphasis in this perspective on supporting families directly, creating a culture that embraces life.
Absolutely. That's a crucial part of their aspirational vision as well. This perspective also champions increased support for families and new parents. There's a recognition that a choice for life, as they frame it, often requires significant societal backing.
What kind of support?
This includes advocating for policies like extended parental leave, affordable childcare options, increased social services aimed at pregnant individuals and new mothers, especially those facing really challenging circumstances.
Community support, too.
Yes, they often emphasize the vital role of community support systems, faith-based organizations, charitable initiatives that provide tangible aid, things like financial assistance, housing help, emotional support, parenting resources. Anything to help parents feel equipped to choose to carry their pregnancies to term and raise their children.
So it's a broader cultural vision.
It really is. What's quite fascinating here is this holistic vision of building a society where abortion is perhaps seen as a last resort or maybe even entirely avoidable or unnecessary, through strong community and familial support, fostering an environment where every life is valued and protected right from its earliest stages. The desire is really for a profound cultural shift, one that fundamentally values life from conception and seeks to create a society where abortion is greatly reduced, focusing on compassion for both the pregnant person and the child, ensuring they both have the support needed to thrive.
A life-affirming culture, as they might put it.
Exactly. A truly life-affirming culture in their view.
Okay. So as we start to wrap up this deep dive, we really hope that exploring these different facets is giving you a clearer, maybe more nuanced understanding of this two sides of the coin philosophy that really underpins all our explorations here at the Deep Dive. Our aim, truly, is always to try and approach complex issues from multiple angles, acknowledging that both sides often stem from deeply held values. Sometimes conflicting, yes, but frequently compassionate values about life, dignity, autonomy, and just what it means to live in a just society.
And if we connect this all back to the bigger picture one last time, it's just so clear that this isn't only a legal issue or a medical issue or even just a political one.
No, it cuts deeper.
It really does. It's one deeply embedded in our collective values, our ethics, our fundamental definitions of what it means to be human, and how we choose to structure our society around those definitions. The nuances are just vast, and the personal stakes are incredibly high for everyone involved.
Which makes dialogue harder, but maybe more important.
Yeah, exactly. It makes informed and hopefully empathetic dialogue more crucial than ever.
So this really raises, I think, an important question for you, our listener, to consider as you go forward. In a world where deeply held values often conflict so profoundly, sometimes irreconcilably, it seems, how do you approach these divides? And maybe more broadly, how can we as a society foster deeper understanding, maybe even compassion, across these different perspectives, even when agreement feels, well, maybe impossible?
A crucial question indeed.
That's something to think about. Thank you for diving deep with us today.